Yes, sir. What's going on, family? It's your man, Mr. Law of Attraction, back for another video, coming to you from my hometown of San Diego, seeking awareness. One of the things I learned from my mentor, Bob Proctor, when I had my first $250,000 month in my business, I said, Bob, I want to have my first $1 million month. It was so important that I actually had it tattooed on my wrist right here. You guys have heard me talk about it before. He said, DeAndre, if you want to have $1 million month, don't seek for more money, seek for more awareness. As you raise your level of consciousness, all answers will be attracted to you. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys a couple steps of how I've been seeking awareness over the last 6 years. That's allowed me to earn millions of dollars in my 20s, live in Dubai, and have a fun life. So without further ado, let's have this good workout. I'll see you guys in a second.
Let's rock and roll. I can feel that fire growing inside and blood, and then most likely that told it got me higher. Yeah, one in the hole. I'ma live my life like a Magnetizing. Hold my killer ain't no side me. Death coming, it surprised me. Yeah, steady be dishing out smoke.
There's this quote from the Gospel of Thomas that I want to start with. It says that Jesus said, I stood in the midst of the world and appeared to them in the flesh. I found all of them drunk. I found none thirsty. My soul ached for the children of humanity because they are blind in the hearts and they do not see. See, essentially what Jesus is saying is that in today's modern world, even back then, most people are not seeking awareness. They're not trying to understand the I am that lives within them. And I'm guilty of this. What does that look like in context? We are searching for things outside of us. We're trying to have our $1 million businesses, buy a Ferrari, live in Dubai, get a girlfriend, whatever it is, build your family. You're going after something external. And those are great, but those are external things. What Jesus is saying is most people are trying to achieve worldly things without going within. Does that make sense? And I want to follow that up with the Gospel of Thomas, saying number 3. Jesus said, the kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you. You see, what's happening is that the first step to creation and manipulating the outside world is the understanding I am, understanding consciousness. So as I've told you guys before, this world that we're living in right now is a simulation. From the room that you're in, the car that you drive, the business that you have, the city that you live in, anything that you want, it's a reflection of what's going on inside. And it's a simulation that's bent to the reality of man. I don't care if you went to Socrates, Jesus, Buddha, Bob Proctor, all of them talk about the same thing, is that we become what we think about. In other words, the thoughts that we hold in our conscious mind emotionally evolve into our subconscious mind, then start to reciprocate into our actions, therefore manipulating the outside world. I've told you guys time and time again that the law of attraction is actually a reaction to our frequency being our thoughts, feelings, and action. If we wanted to say, for example, you're going after your first $100,000 month in your business, or you're a trader, or whatever business that you're running right now, that frequency is a reflection of what's going on in there. If we start to think, act, and feel like that person now, you'll start to attract the situations and circumstances. And I've seen this happen twice in my life. And I talk about it, not to talk about how much money I've made, guys. It's about like the stories. If you wonder why I'm so excited and motivated to talk about these things, is because I've seen it happen in my own life. When I had that first $100,000 month, let's go back to April 2020. I'm in Medellin, Colombia. I had no idea how I was going to pay my rent. And I used these principles of what is called the Neville Goddard method, meditation. And at the middle of that month of April 2020, I had $1,000 in my bank account. And then using these principles, there was some random ass shit that came into play. I made $100,000 in profit in less than 2 weeks. And I went on to build $1 million business. And you know, it's the craziest thing. It didn't just happen to me once, it happened to me twice. When I went to Dubai and I did it again. And I started to really get understanding of what this was. Ups and downs in my life, but it had nothing to do with what was going on outside. It was what's going on with here, what was going on with here in my consciousness, in the I am. When I started to understand the I am, and I started to navigate it like a ship and say, I will reject my 3D reality. I don't care what the bank account says. I don't care what the views say. I don't care what's going on outside of me. I take the truth. The truth is, what do you want to the exclusion of what's going on outside of you? And then building your willpower long enough for it to manifest. Because you have to understand that the outside world is a delayed manifestation about what's going on inside. So if you start to think and act and feel like the man is running $1 million business, it's not going to happen overnight. Can it happen in a month, 2 months, 3 months? Absolutely. I was able to do that within 60 days. It might not happen overnight, but you have to use your willpower in order to hold that. So the basis law that you have to understand is that your consciousness is dictating what's coming in and out of your life, the I am. And when I say I am, I want you to experience it as this. You're thinking a thought right now, right? I want you to think this. You're thinking some type of thought as you're watching this video. What is the observer or the noticer that is listening to that thought? For example, you might say, I am a man, I am a woman. Well, what is the I am that is identifying the man or the woman? Does that make sense? There's a higher level of consciousness that Jesus talks about continuously throughout the Gospel of Thomas, that there is an I am. And when Moses went to the bush and God revealed himself to him, what did he say? I am the I am. The I am is that piece of consciousness that is able to observe the thoughts, the feelings in the 3D reality. But what Jesus is saying in this example is that too many times that we get involved in the outside reality. We need to bring the kingdom back within. Go back and focus here, and you'll start to see some things start to happen. I want to present to you one of the most thoughtful pieces of information that I've consumed this week. And it's about self-knowledge and power. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, when you know yourselves, you will realize you are the sons of the living Father. So we've heard before that we're created in God's image, but I think at your level of awareness and where we're at right now, he's not a human being. We were created in the image of his consciousness. Because think about this. When you die, you go somewhere else. Your body stays here. Does that make sense? There's a power flowing into your consciousness that allows you to think and create ideas. So what we're saying here is when you understand that true I am, that is when you're able to manipulate the outside reality. That's why Jesus said he found that most people to be drunk, that we're living in this simulation and most people are playing with the 3D objects, but not being masters over the object. It was said in ancient times, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, that the conscious mind was to be the master, the subconscious mind was to be the servant. But guys, trust me, I've been studying this for 6 years, been teaching it to thousands of clients, and even I fall to this. You know why? Because it's one thing to understand information, but it's another to implement it. I highly recommend you guys do something that Bob Proctor passed down to me, which is continual study. Making sure you're spending 30 minutes, 1 hour a day in the study of the works. Whether you're studying Bob Proctor, Dr. Joe Dispenza, some Neville Goddard. I've really been getting into Neville Goddard lately. Because what that does, when you start to realize who you are, what happens is you stop letting the outside world control you. I've talked about this plenty of times before in the past. The idea of projection rejection. That if we're going to have to raise to a new conscious level of being, we have to be at that level. We have to act as if it's done, to the exclusion of rejecting everything that's in the outside world. So the point is that we're not lacking resources. We're not lacking the money, the contact. What we're lacking is our ability to connect to that frequency of our awareness. The moment you assume and believe at a core level that you are that person, what happens is you cease wanting something outside of you. You're no longer trying, you're no longer wanting, and that becomes magnetic. And you'll start to realize that things start to flow into your life effortlessly. Anytime I've scaled my companies to the next levels, I mean, talking about $100,000 weeks, $100,000 months, all these different things that I've been able to achieve, it was not because I was working harder. It's because I was magnetizing everything to me based on what I was going on internally. So the next step is seeking self-knowledge, understanding that true consciousness at that higher level, that I am. When you understand that I am that observes the thoughts, you'll realize how connected to the kingdom you truly are, that God is living to and through us, externally in the kingdom of heaven, but most importantly, internally in that I am, and that you can be the master of the 3D reality. Let's get to the next point so we can get it going. So let's talk about the illusion of separation. Gospel of Thomas. Jesus said, when you make the two one, then you will enter the kingdom. Well, what are the two one? Thoughts and emotions. We can say that. We talked about that in last video. But what he says is when we make the two one, meaning our internal state and our external states are one. Time and time again, we've been conditioned that the outside world is fate, chance, random. That's not true. Our external world is us pushed out. So if you're in a situation right now in your business, in your health, in your relationship that you don't like right now, one of the first steps of awareness is taking responsibility that is you pushed out, that you have attracted that reality. You know, to be honest, when my life started to change is when, right before I met Bob Proctor. This was 6 years ago, over 6 years ago, almost 6.5 years ago. And I remember after all my businesses were failing, nothing was working. I had to admit at that period of my life that I was broke. The moment that I admitted that is that I started to seek help. I started to seek in a humble method. I wasn't seeking for the benefit of, oh my God, let's make millions of dollars. I was seeking in a truly humble method that I was able to find my mentor, and then you guys know the rest of the history. I took responsibility that my external world was me pushed out. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but now looking backwards, that's what it is. So therefore, if you want to go have your first $1 million business, grow your YouTube channel to 1 million subscribers, live in Dubai, buy your car, whatever the hell that you want right now, whatever your C-type goal is, you have to realize that that is you pushed out. Every single piece of your situation is you pushed out. Meaning, remember the I am, that part of your consciousness. That part of I am is connected at a deep subconscious level to whatever's going on outside of you. You truly believe that you're there. I had to think about that to myself yesterday. Why is it that I can't scale my business to the next level? I hit the $100,000 month and then it just stops. That I only had a $250,000 month one time, and since then I haven't been able to replicate that. Well, I had to take responsibility that if I wanted to change that, I have to change the I am. That piece of the consciousness that is observing the thought, observing the emotions. And when I go to that place, a place of where God is, I am, and I hold that state long enough, I fall asleep to the feeling of that wish fulfilled, I'll start to realize that my outside world will change. You have to realize that the outside world is an illusion, that is one and two connected. When you get your thoughts and feelings connected as one, you're able to become the God of your world and manipulate reality. But then we can extrapolate that and say whatever's going on outside of us is one and the same about what's going on in here. Bob Proctor used to ask the question, how much money have you ever earned in a year? What's the maximum amount of money you earned in a year? Not that he cared how much you earned, he just wanted to know where you're programmed. So if you look at your external world right now, just note that it is you pushed out. That is where you're currently programmed. If you want to change the program, change the I am statements that are going here in your conscious mind. When you truly start to understand the things that I've taught you in this video, and I don't mean here, I mean understand. This is when you'll start to realize you can bring the invisible into form. There's a law called the law of perpetual transmutation that states whatever thought you hold inside your conscious mind, eventually it will transmute or change form into its physical counterpart. You may have heard it as if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. That's a true law. Let's go here to the Gospel of Thomas when Jesus said, if you bring forth what is within you, what is within you will save you. Neville Goddard said, imagination creates reality. So one thing we have to understand is that whatever it is that you want, it already exists. And that all we have to do is tap into that frequency. I'm talking about effortless success. Now there's two types of ways that we can manipulate the 3D simulation. One is Newtonian physics, which is step 1, step 2, step 3. So in the way of business, it might be, okay, DeAndre, I want to have my first $1 million year, my first $1 million month. I must go 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month. That's traditional Newtonian physics, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. When you work in the quantum field, it doesn't work like that. There's no time and space. You can jump to the frequency known as quantum jumping. I've taught this plenty of times on my YouTube channel, meaning you can go straight from 0 to 100,000 a month, 0 to 100,000 YouTube subscribers overnight. And you guys have seen it, especially those of you that have been following me for the last 7 years, you've seen it happen in multiple areas of my life. My first YouTube video, I go viral. My first business is 6-figure months. Second business is 6-figure months. And it's not even with my own hands. To be completely honest, I don't even know what I do afterwards. I then hire business and operations people to figure out what I did, because I'm not playing in the traditional Newtonian physics world. I'm playing in the quantum realm. So when you start to realize that whatever image that you're holding in your mind and you begin to plant into the subconscious mind, it must be expressed, meaning whatever's impressed upon the subconscious mind must be expressed. So you might be asking, well, DeAndre, what is the language of the subconscious mind? The subconscious mind controls 95% of the results that you're coming in. It's your unconscious habits. That language is images backed by emotion, done with repetition. Meaning, get a clear image of exactly what it is that you want. Is it your first $1 million business? Is it your dream body, your dream relationship? Do you want to live in Dubai? What is it that you want? Get a clear image of exactly what it looks like. Most of the times that I'm speaking with my clients, they have a vague image. DeAndre, I want to have my $100,000 month. That's fine, but what does that look like? What does that mean exactly? When I was going after that first milestone in my life, what that looked like to me was my calendar being fully booked out. When I had a fully booked out calendar, that means that was on my way to the next level, and that's exactly what happened. Same thing with YouTube. Get a clear image of exactly what that looks like. All right, it's really important. Second thing is you have to back that by feeling. I've been really getting into Neville Goddard recently. He says that feeling is the secret. Even as you really dive into the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says the same thing. When you make the two one, you have to feel as if it's done. Does that make sense? And I've talked about this in the last video when we talked about electromagnetics, that the body's an electromagnetic switching station. So whatever thought that you send out, if you don't magnetize it back to you by feeling it, you're not going to have it come to you. Electromagnetic. You have to have both. So when you start to feel as if it's done, and let me tell you this, you're not trying and you're not wanting. You have to feel as if it's done already. The point of it is you want to be satisfied. The satisfaction of that which you want brings it forth into your life. You bring in the invisible into form. And then we have to do that with repetition, especially the beginning people. Especially most of you that watch me are using this for business. The guys that are under $10,000 a month, under $30,000 a month. What I find you guys doing is that you are constantly changing the image. You're like, okay, I want this and then I want that. And every week, because it's not coming into your life fast enough, you start changing, you start doubting. Remember, rejecting the projection. You have to hold that state long enough for it to come into fruition. This is where your willpower comes in. Your willpower is your ability to focus on one object to the exclusion of everything else that's going on outside of you. That can be internal states or external states, meaning your external world is not changing fast enough or your feelings are not in alignment. You have to hold it long enough. Taking your imagination, forming an image, using your willpower to hold it long enough as you feel it, and do that with repetition. Keep doing it until once your beliefs have matched, that's when you start to realize that it'll come into place. Now, for those of you those are my clients that I noticed that are like the guys that are at the 7 and 8 figure level. This is where they get the best results, and that is acting as if you have it already. Now, this sounds like counterintuitive, but what would it look like in action form if you already had what it is that you wanted? What would that look like? You see, remember the idea of frequencies, thoughts, feelings, and actions. If we start to think, act, and feel like the person that we want to become, a lot of people get the first two right. They start to think like that person, feel like that person, but what they don't do is start to act like that person. What actions would imply that you had what you wanted? You almost in a way create a vacuum. Like I told you guys before, when I first moved to Dubai and I started this YouTube channel, I didn't have any subscribers. I didn't have anything. Literally, I was starting a brand new YouTube channel, but I assumed the feeling that I had a successful YouTube channel already. So in my mind, when I hit the camera, even though I had no subscribers, I thought, felt, and acted like it. And what that did was that created a vacuum. And as you guys saw, I went viral overnight, right? Why? Not because I was just thinking, acting, feeling, but when I hit the camera, I wasn't speaking as if I was a guy with no subscribers. I was already had a successful YouTube channel in Dubai. Does that make sense? I acted like that person. And I told you guys many stories in the past, such as packing your bags, making space on your calendar, such as if you're a consultant or something like that. If you're a trader, what would it look like if you had that? When you start to get those three in alignment, your behavior will start to change, but that's when you start to notice things come into your life. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, whatever it is that you're seeking right now, it's a level of your consciousness, the I am that observes your thoughts, the I am that observes your feeling states. That's the God living within us. When you're able to go to the higher state of thinking, that level of consciousness, you realize that you are the dominate over everything that's going on around you. It doesn't matter your situation, circumstances, or environment. When you live at the place of I am and creation, I am is more powerful than whatever's going on outside of you. When you start to think from this place, you'll realize that you can control anything that's coming outside of you. There's no longer fate, there's no longer chance, there's no longer random. You realize that we were really created in God's image, and you can build the life that you want. Make sure you guys subscribe below. I'll see you guys in the next video. If you guys like videos like this where I'm filming at the gym, let me know in the comments below and I'll keep making some more. Other than that, it's your man, Mr. Law of Attraction. I'll see you guys in the next video.